Cell phones, vibrator sign.
A handful. I get at least 3 a day.
Good evening, and welcome to this regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's August 13th, 2020, and we're underway at 7 p.m. Our agenda tonight will start off with our invocation, and tonight that will be given by Councilmember Blue, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States and Texas flag. So if you please stand for those.
Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening, we are thankful for your presence as we contemplate issues that will shape the future of our community. Help us to strike the right balance between short-term and long-term needs of our city so that we don't put one before the other. We ask for guidance as we work through tonight's agenda items. We also ask that you protect our police, firefighters, and all of our public servants as they work daily to make our community better for all of us. Finally, we ask that you provide guidance to our elected officials at all levels, that they may keep the citizens first in every decision they make. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, next up is our citizens to be heard portion of the meeting, and we have one person that's called in, Eric Thompson. Eric, if you would, when you get on, give us your address, and then you'll have 3 minutes to say what you need to say. So we appreciate you calling in and being part of the meeting.
Of course, thanks for having me. So good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Thompson. Me and my wife live in the Beverly Hills subdivision. So there's people that are smarter than me, and they can discuss the finer points and legal details of our community's opposition to the use of Beverly Hills as a thoroughfare for the new Davis Ranch subdivision. I'm not as qualified as some of the residents, but I just wanted to discuss it sort of anecdotally from the point of view of a standard resident of the subdivision. So my wife and I, we moved here only about 2 years ago, but we chose Beverly Hills after a lot of consideration. It was established, a quiet community, it was tucked away, good residential, one way in, one way out type of layout. So while we understand, on the west side of San Antonio, things are blossoming and booming, but the infrastructure of Beverly Hills was not designed for that. The road system is one of those very thin veneer roads that was meant for light traffic. It doesn't even have lines painted on it. So using that as a thoroughfare would just be a nightmare for our subdivision. It will damage many aspects of that were selling points to us when we chose this spot in Helotes. So I'm voicing my concerns and opinion, even as an outsider to the legal and legislative aspects. I can see that it's an awful idea. Not just as somebody who lives directly on the road. Obviously I don't want to see more traffic in my neighborhood, but because we live on the road, we sort of know that this will not stand up to that type of growth and usage. So I'd recommend having some foresight and knowing that this is kind of our micro version of what happened to Culebra because of Alamo Ranch. This is something that we should use as an example that this is what would happen here in a small scale. Using this road other than what it was designed for is just a bad idea. So that's just my opinion. I'd like to state that, and thanks for hearing me. I definitely appreciate it.
Okay, Eric, thank you. We can't discuss this, but I will tell you that we're working with Bear County and we're trying to find out what's going on as much as anybody else, and we will keep you guys informed as we learn things.
That's awesome. Thanks so much. I definitely appreciate it.
You bet. We won't roll over. Okay, next up we have our consent agenda, items 3 through 7 tonight. And as always, if you have a quick question we can answer, we'll try our best to do that. If you have an item you'd like to pull of these items, let us know and we'll pull it. Are there any questions or requests to pull any item 3 through 7? Okay, then I will look for a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 3 through 7.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve consent agenda items 4 through 7 as written.
We have a, yeah, 3 through 7. We have a motion from Fredericks. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Holmes. No discussion being required. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Items, consent items 3 through 7 are approved. That brings us to item number 8 under individual consideration. This is discussion of an action on an ordinance. Amending ordinance number 20-03 by revising the original election order and calling for a general election to be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020 for the purpose of electing council members in place 1, 2, and 4. And also changing the early voting dates and hours. So if we can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action.
Go ahead.
I move to discuss and take action on item 8 as written.
We have a motion from Massey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Bives. Cynthia, it's your motion if you have something you'd like to discuss.
No, just the last part, because we basically have to do what the county or the state has told us to do as far as this. But I'm talking authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a contract for election services with Bear County. Does this include just the election day, or the early voting as well to be here in Helotes?
The whole deal. Or
The whole
voting.
deal, okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a cost? Do we know how much something like that is going to cost?
Yeah, it's around 10, wasn't it? Yeah, which is pretty typical.
10 to 11,000.
Yeah.
The more cities that sign up, the cheaper it is for the cities that participate.
We don't have that count yet, but since it's a national election, there's probably going to be most of them
Okay,
participating that can.
okay, that's good. That's all I wanted to mention.
Okay. Bert, anything?
No.
Alex?
No, sir, thank you.
No.
Ellen?
No.
Paul? Nothing? Okay, no more discussion. We'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. On to number 9. This is a presentation and discussion on the proposed fiscal year 2021 municipal budget and the proposed tax year 2020 ad valorem tax. And Marion is going to hand these out to you guys. And the PowerPoint's in here. And just to introduce Marion and her presentation, as always, we've been working on this for quite some time. Marion spent time with each department, putting the numbers together, and she's done most of the crunching, and then I harassed her a little bit from time to time, but as always, up to now, it's been the mayor's budget. Since as mayor, I'm the budget officer for the city, and now from this point forward, it'll be your budget. And as always, I ask you all, as we get into this, just remember, and I don't want to take up any of Marion's material, but as you get questions, Mary and I are gonna be available, as always, to answer your questions, and you'll see the numbers change from meeting to meeting, as always, because we're paying bills and we're getting revenue in. So, I won't cover much more in the budget message, but it's there for you to read. And Marion, take it away.
Thank you. So you'll see in your packet, there is a PowerPoint that I'm doing that will basically highlight the budget document. We left the budget document formatted basically what you're used to, where it's divided within the graphs that are there. I've added a couple of graphs, explanation of what those graphs are, and then a summary of the general fund. You'll see the summarization a little bit different. I kind of cleaned it up a little and then did explanations of all that, and you'll see all the other funds in there. I wanted to really let you know the department heads did a wonderful job working. This is everybody's budget, you know, and everybody worked hard. I want to give a lot of credit also to Tabby Durr. She really crunched numbers. She did a phenomenal job to make sure that these numbers were, you know, especially helping with the projections of revenue and working with departments on that, and looking at the year-to-date projections, you know, where we're going to come at the end of this fiscal year, especially with the COVID being here, coming, and us not making some of the estimates that we were expecting to be at. So kudos to all the departments. They have done a phenomenal job, just not in this proposed budget, but on the current budget, of making sure that we stay within our revenue and our needs. So with that said, we're going to kind of summarize this budget. Oops, where did it go? Where did the PowerPoint go?
Any questions?
That was, I told her to keep it short, but
That was brief.
This is ridiculous.
you've been hanging around me too long. You sound like a computer.
Well, while she's doing that, I'll go over the slides.
Yeah, we have the hard.
Yeah, you have a hard copy. So basically, this proposed budget was developed to be consistent with the established mission, vision, and goals of the city of Helotes. The allocated resources by city department to provide excellent services to our citizens, businesses, and visitors. It highlights how the allocations of city financial and capital resources are targeted to maintain the efficiency of our daily operations. We are looking at the property taxes also for this year, for 2020. The Bear County Appraisal District provided us the certified total for the city of Helotes for tax year 2020, and it's a net taxable value of $1.2 billion. It's an increase of 6.53% over 2019. 38% of our general fund revenue is from property taxes. It is, Helotes is one of the lowest property tax rates compared to other 25 suburban cities. There are only 7 other cities that are lower than Helotes. The next chart shows a comparison, and the reason that I picked these is because they're either close to us or they're within our population. So I wanted to show you what the comparison was, and if you can see, there's only on this one, Chavano Park is the only one that is lower than Helotes. Next slide. The property tax history from 2013 to 2019, the assessed value of taxable property has been steadily increasing, but we've maintained the same property rates since 2013. Our M&O, our maintenance and operation, which is considered our M&O portion of the rate, has approximately been equal since we adopted that in 2007. And the next slide will show you that. We'll show you our full rate, which was in 09, started out at about 36 cents, and we've stayed consistent at about 35 cents since last year. The next chart shows how it's broken up between M&O and INS. The INS is our debt ratio. It's the next one, that one. And if you look at the blue part, which shows you our M&O, which is our maintenance and operation, in '07, when we took in our Series '07 obligations, we were at 26 cents, a little over 26.8 cents, and last year we were at 26.1. So we've maintained that to maintain our general fund. So that's really, really good. It's just that our debt, you know, depending on what we owe on debt and what the interest rate and so forth, that's what varies. The next slide, if I can get it to change. So this year, what we're proposing or what was given to us by BCAD, by the county, and what we're proposing, the current rate is at 35 cents. The no new revenue rate, which used to be called the effective tax rate, is 35.351488. The voter approval rate, which is what used to be called the rollback rate, is 0.346525. Now, generally, your rollback is higher than your voter is higher than the no new revenue rate. The reason it's lower is because we actually had some money in our debt obligation fund that we can use to pay our debt. So we are using that money, so it brought down our interest and sinking fund rate. So it allowed us to, so at that point, the county basically is saying, okay, now your rate is lower, your rollback is lower because your interest and sinking is lower. So our proposed rate this year is 0.346524. So it's slightly, almost a cent lower, not quite, than the 35. But it is a lower rate because our interest and sinking is lower. So the Bear Appraisal estimates that the number of property owners who qualify for the over 65 property tax freeze for the tax year 2020 increased by 49 households. The properties qualifying for the freeze decreased the total taxable value by a little over $2 million. The city will forego approximately will forego approximately $1 million in the fiscal year 21 as a result of the approved property tax freeze, which we had adopted. So that's the summary of our property taxes. Sorry, I'm not moving my slides. Sales tax, which is our second largest source of revenue in the city. Current sales tax rate in the city of Helotes is 8%. 6.25 goes directly to the state. 1% funds the general fund of the city. 0.25% is street maintenance, and 0.5% goes to EDC. That is how that is broken up. The proposed budget, a little over $5 million is projected to be collected with the sales tax. Now, I just sent y'all a summary of what we just collected in June, which showed a 14% increase. The last 2 months, we have seen an increase. We don't know if that trend will continue, so we were very conservative in our estimate. We were also conservative in our property tax estimate of revenues. In the past, City of Helotes has always projected that we would collect 99%. That's what we put in our budget. This year we did not. When Tabby and I looked at it, we've only collected between 97.5 to 98% of our property taxes. So this year we put 97% collection rate. If we collect more, then that will go into our fund balance. We didn't use the full amount as our projection on our revenue. We also did that with our sales taxes. We projected just about a 4% increase because that has been the overall increase this last year. So even though the last 2 months have shown a tremendous increase, we didn't want to have that, assume that. So we were very conservative in all our revenue estimates for this proposed budget. $700,000 is projected to the budget for the street maintenance fund, 1.4 budgeted for EDC, and $3 million is budgeted for the general fund, which is 36% of the total general fund revenue. Now, we're very proud that we are at the point that both our general fund and our property taxes are almost equal to each other. This is something that the mayor has been working on for years to get, because not many cities are like that. It's usually their property taxes are way above their sales tax in revenue percentage. And we are really close. We're at 38 and 36. That is something to be very proud of here in the city of Helotes. This next chart shows you what all the different revenues come in. Our total projected revenues for our proposed budget is $8.3 million. And this just kind of breaks up and summarizes what the different revenue sources are for the city. Property taxes, sales tax, other taxes, franchise, license, permit fees, fire and EMS revenues, designated revenues, fines, forfeitures, and miscellaneous. And within your budget document, it breaks it all down for you. The next slide shows you just our org chart. Wanted you to have a summary of that so you can see how it's split up for our expenditures. This slide shows you how our expenditures are broken up. Our total expenditures that we are proposing for in this budget is $8.2 million, and this is how it's broken up per department within our budget allocations. Our fund balance percentages by expenditures: public safety, which includes police, dispatch, fire, and EMS, 51% of our budget. Administration, which includes city, secretary, HR, mayor, city council, is 24%. Now the reason that is really high is because our 380 agreements are within that. So what we pay for our 380 agreements is within that line item. So if we had taken that out, then our admin percentage wouldn't be so high. Our courts and warrants are at 8%, building and grounds is 7%, public works is 6%, and development services 4%. So this is basically a summary of our proposed budget and in comparison to our budget from last year and what our year-to-date estimates are. So if you see at the end of the total, our fiscal year this year, 2020, we budgeted $8.3 million. Our year-to-date estimates are at 7.9, which is really good because our revenues are also lower. So department heads have been very, very diligent in looking at that and ensuring that we stay within our budget and our needs. Our proposed is at 8.2, and you'll see that it's a decrease from our budgeted from last year. City authorized positions. I'm going to kind of summarize this, but I'll talk more about it in the slides after this, but you'll see a difference. We are proposing a couple of new full-time positions, but one of them is really a reallocation. You'll see that we have a lot of part-time. It's because we have authorized positions in fire for part-time, but we have not been able to utilize them because of COVID-19. Other fire departments are not allowing fire to work at other departments. So if you're full-time somewhere else, you cannot work part-time at another department. So we have not been able to utilize our part-time. So because of that, we've had to relook to see, okay, is that going to be the future? And that's probably going to be the future, and we will not be able to utilize them. So our overtime has increased because of that. So because of that, we're looking at reallocating and maybe bringing in a full-time position to cover the annual leaves and other, to cover those type of things instead of using the part-time that we've been using. We're also proposing a addition to our public works department. So it'll change from 70 full-time to 72, 21 part-time to 12 part-time. The overall program changes in this fiscal. In order to continue to maintain competitive remain competitive in recruiting and retaining qualified staff, we're proposing a 3% salary increase to include in this proposed budget. This will include a 2% cost of living and a 1% merit adjustment. Our biggest expense is our benefits, our health insurance premium. It will increase by 19%. And that's because they actually came in at a higher. They came in at 24%. We went out for bid. The other bids came in higher except for one other company, and then, so when you go out for bid like that, you actually go back to the company and say, can you at least match the lowest they did? So we're keeping United Health Care at the 19%. Now, our vision, dental, disability, those rates did not increase. We did have we believe that next year, hopefully we won't see this increase. There was just a situation that caused that, and we think that also just with everything that's going on with COVID, there was some increases with healthcare. But we were able to, we didn't change any benefits, we didn't increase, anything else. This is just to maintain the current benefits that we're providing our employees as is. So that is the increase. That's the major increase. The proposed fund statement. The proposed revenue this year is $8.3 million, which is a 0.004 decrease from the current adopted budget. And the expenditure is 8.2, which is a 1.15 decrease from the current adopted budget. Like I said, we were very conservative in both our expenditure and revenues for the fiscal year 20, and that's with the increase of our premiums. That's with everything that we've talked about. And we did this because, like I said, the department heads we started out with what we call a zero baseline budget, what it takes to run the city, and then added on to the extras. So we really evaluated our budget, reallocated things, put things in the right departments to ensure that we had a very clean base budget to start off with. Okay, some of the highlights within this budget that you will see is we reallocated a position from human resources to development services so that we can provide better customer service to our residents and developers, ensuring that permits and plan reviews were processed in a timely manner. We are growing. We did see a little bit of slowdown for a couple of months, but it is now picking back up, thank goodness. And because of that, we get bombarded with a lot of phone calls, a lot of even walk-ins, online permits and so forth like that. And we felt that position was better utilized in development services than in HR. So we moved that position over. We also are proposing an additional employee in public works to meet the needs of the growing city infrastructure. We are growing, we have more open spaces, we have more streets, and so forth, so that extra position we felt is needed in that department. We also did some internal realignments within the fire and EMS, like I talked about, not to utilize part-time employees because we were just not being able to, and our overtime was increasing, so we actually was able to bring down our overtime, get rid of the part-time, and go in there and budget another full-time position to cover for that cost. We also reallocated technology and equipment to one departmental budget under building. You'll see it under building and grounds to ensure better management, because didn't know where all this stuff was being charged in different departments. Now we do. We can have a better control of it, because I'm looking at, you'll see on the next line where it says technology equipment replacement for dispatch and court. I'm looking at having a replacement plan for computers, so that, because there was no list of how old one computer was when we were getting it. We were just kind of Frankenstein together on some computers. So now we're getting them all through the DIR, which is through the state. They have a 3-year warranty. They will be moved out, and we feel like dispatch and court should be the first ones that get the replacement. We also started implementing an online employment application software. This company actually let us do a trial run for 60 days before we decided if we wanted to purchase it. And the purchase price is cheaper than what we spent on ads in the newspaper this past year. And we've used it so far for a dispatch position and a fire position, and it has been a great success. Prior to this, when we would put an ad in the fire, we might get 2 or 3. This last time we got over, I want to say 28, and we were able to interview 15. Yes. For the dispatch, we got over 30, and we have already hired somebody that had dispatch experience. So it has been a success, and it's under $2,000. So this has been something that, that we utilized at my old city, and that was something that Ron wanted us to look at here. And I knew we had a success because everything's online. It's an online application, and they get to turn everything in online. The next one is cybersecurity pen testing. So basically, I'm going to have a company hack into our system. This is where our vulnerability is. I know we got hit a few years back, and it was hard hit, and we had to rebuild some stuff. So every time you add a printer, every time you add a computer, every time you have someone touch your system, there's a vulnerability because they forget to change your password, they forget to do something else. Anytime you add a flash drive, all that causes vulnerability. So what you do is you basically hire a company to come and show you where your vulnerability is. They do a testing. There's also constantly different malwares out there, different hacks. So this company comes out what they do is they come out and pen test on an annual basis, but they also do a quarterly testing to make sure that they run a full system diagnostics to make sure there's no malware sitting anywhere just hidden, because sometimes it just sits there and then it becomes a bomb and just spreads into your network. So they come and do this, and they do a rating, and then they show you your vulnerability. You give that to your IT vendor, and then your IT vendor goes and fixes up those vulnerabilities, and then they come and retest to make sure that your IT vendor fixed everything they said that they were going to fix. So you can make sure that they're doing what you paid them to do. So that's
Once a year? Is that once a year, once a quarter?
they do a pen testing once a year, but then they do a network scanning every quarter.
Thank you.
You're welcome. They were also doing an upgrade on our public safety portable radios. We're preparing for the requirement. So by 2021, end of 2021, we have to be at P25 radios. So we started them actually last year, and we're continuing them so that it doesn't all hit us at once. We're also going to have to upgrade consoles, so you'll see that not this year, but next year. And that is a high expense, but we're preparing for them, so we're trying to get at least the portable radios in this year. We're also going to continue police training on site and replacement of bulletproof vests. So you'll see that as a difference. Some of the other reallocations I didn't list on here, you'll see that we're moving our engineer services, our building inspections, and our health inspectors from administration to development services, because that's where that expense should be. So you'll see a reallocation. You'll look at that budget and be like, okay, why did it increase by 178%? It's because it's a reallocation, and you'll see that in your notes when you look at the details. The proposed general fund operating is estimated to produce $130,000 in net revenue after expenditures, and this increases about $12,000 compared to the current adopted budget. We're hoping it'll be more than that if our revenues come in to be more, but we're comfortable with that. Our fund balance. The projected year-end fund balance of fiscal year 21 will equal to $1.7 million. Now, the GFO, the General Finance Officer Association, recommends at least 3 months of operating expenses in case of emergencies, which is $2 million. But our city policy is at least 2 months, which is 1.3. Our goal here, which is mine and the mayor, is to get us at 2 million. And that's what we're working slowly but surely. We're going to get there. So that's what our goal is. The next chart is a summary of what our fund balance has been since '06 to the current year. So you'll see the dips, ups and downs of our fund balance. And at the end of this year, we're estimating it to be 1.6, and then the end of next year to be 1.7. So like I said, little by little, we're looking at increasing it to get us back to the 2 million. This summarizes what the fund balance does. So at the beginning of this year, which was October 19, our fund balance was at 1.6. Our projected revenues, we're estimating at the end of this year will be 7.952. Our expenses is 7.972, and then our capital is 33. Now you're going to see why, even though my expenditures are more than my revenues, y'all approved for us to use some of our fund balance to pay for IT stuff. We didn't have to use, or we're estimating that we're not using all of it, so we're able to put some of it back into our fund balance. Y'all approved that, I believe, in January because we had to meet compliance with the Windows 10 to upgrade all our up to Windows 10. So y'all approved that, but we won't need all of it, so we're going to be able to put some of that back into our fund balance. For next year, we're looking at beginning our fund balance at 1.6, proposing our revenues at 8.3, our expenditures at 8.2, and putting back 103, bringing our fund balance to 1.7. Now, like I said, within your notebook, there's several funds, but we're only going to emphasize 5 because those are the only funds we're looking at expenditures. I know in the past there was expenditures, they would just kind of zero them out. The mayor and I spoke, and these were the only projects that we felt that were needed for this year. We have a lot on our plate through the general funds, and these are the main projects that we're looking at for this year. So in capital projects, it's not just capital projects, it's also capital replacement. So we have one fund both for projects and replacement. That includes our leases for our vehicles. So our goal in the next few years is eventually we'll have a strong enough fund balance and a strong enough revenue fund that our leases will go away and we'll be paying cash for our vehicles. But in the meantime, we will be expending money for the disc golf, fitness, restroom facility and fence, $150,000. Current lease payments, which covers the police vehicles, public works truck, and the animal control truck, which equals $157,000. We're looking at purchasing 2 more police vehicles with lease payments and equipment, which will equal $28,500, and then a public works lift boom for 450 chassis. Now that was in this year's budget. We carried it forward. We're still working on that, but we've just put it in that budget if that's something we're going to look at extending. So currently we have a fund balance, and I think that slide your dates are wrong, so I corrected it on this slide. The fund balance we're estimating for 2020 is 663. We're expecting to spend 377, and our projected end balance by the end of the year would be 369. For street maintenance, we didn't do street maintenance this year, which was kind of good because then it allowed us to bring back that fund balance. I like to work where we're using the money from previous year so that we don't deplete that. So if something does happen to that sales tax, we have money reserved for that. So next year we're looking at expending $800,000 because we're looking at collecting about $742, leaving a fund balance of $673. Court technology, we're looking at expending $414,000, which is the computers that I talked about, leaving a balance of $11,000. Now our PEG fund. So our PEG, we're looking at expending $150, and it's because we're looking at updating all the AV system in here, the equipment, everything that's in there. Also, we've been approached by Spectrum. They're going to look at starting to charge a monthly fee, which could be up to $750 a month for us to use. I'm not saying we're going to do that. I'm just saying that they need to, and there might be a fee to run the fiber into the city complex. I haven't got a full proposal yet, and that would come up to council for a decision if we want to go that way for the PEG channel. So I just put it in there just in case. If y'all decide to go that way, we'll bring it back to council once I get a proposal. That would leave a balance of $95,000. And then the school safety, we're looking at some school safety lights, replacements in those, some repairs, and then about $5,000 in educational materials for schools, especially with everything that's going. We just want it positive for the students and so forth, and our police. The next steps, and that's what you'll be doing in the next 2 items, is setting the public hearings for the proposed budget, and we'll be looking at trying to set it for the 27th and the 10th, the first and the second public hearing for the proposed budget. and then setting the consideration date for the budget and the tax rate on September 24th. Any questions?
Yeah, we'll, it's presentation and discussion, so we'll just keep you there.
Yes.
We'll start with Cynthia and see if she has any questions. Again, we've got actually 3 more meetings to go over all of this, and that was a lot to absorb, but just your first impressions and any questions, Cynthia?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you explained the tax rate situation. It seemed a little odd. to
Yeah.
me. No, I really don't have anything at this point. I have to really look at this through the whole thing, but I do appreciate the conservative point of view of putting this together the way you did.
Thank you.
Do we know why the sales tax revenue is, can we pinpoint
We're
a
thinking,
couple things?
we're thinking Walmart, BMC, Millware. We also get taxes from a lot of, so we get double money from any of like the cable internet. So we think people have increased their services on internet usage and so forth. So you get sales tax from that. So the more, so let's say they went from a $50 plan to a $120 plan, you get sales tax from that. We get a portion of, sales tax from that. Also, if you got Hulu or Netflix, and if you're ordering online, they're charging the sales tax from your home now. So we're getting revenues from those things. So I think those are all factors within the increased sales tax.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate because it's actually going up each month.
Mm-hmm.
During this year, so many
Yeah.
cities they've lost, but we've actually increased ours. So, and like Marion says, we've talked about it in Walmart and BMC West, millwork up there on the hill. Are we think 2 big factors, but the online stuff is helpful also.
Mm-hmm.
People are going off and saying,
Yeah,
okay, now they're shopping at home.
Yes, exactly.
But it's hard to pinpoint. What we'll probably do is request a list again from the comptroller's office, but we haven't done that yet.
We're actually putting a letter together for your signature.
Anything else? Cynthia?
Yeah, thank you. It's a wonderful presentation. I like it.
Thank you.
Okay. Bert?
First of all, thank you and Tabby very much for doing all this for us and for also putting up with him during the process. No, just kidding. No, really, thank you very much. Very good presentation. I have a couple of questions. Aren't we going to ratify the new tax rate on the meeting on the 24th?
That's when you're going to adopt and ratify, yes.
Because it just says city council consideration.
If that was just the next step, that's when you
okay.
actually,
You'll approve it.
We'll approve it at that
and
meeting.
we'll ratify it.
yes.
Okay, and then this, the proposed tax rate for 2020, is that, I'm trying to understand here, because I remember last year you was talking about lowering the 0.35 to something, I think 0.34 or something like that. Is this something we have to do, or this is what you're proposing?
I'm proposing, well, we have to, for us not to go into election, you have to stay either at the voter
Mhm.
or lower.
Okay. Oh, you have to, so
Yeah.
we're being forced to.
You're being,
Yes.
We're being forced to do it. Okay.
We talked about that last year.
Yes, sir, I remember that. Yeah, okay.
But
And-
this is calculated by the appraisal district, and
Okay.
it is, as Marion said, the old rollback rate.
Okay, and then you just went down from 525 to 524 just to stay under it?
yeah, just to stay.
Okay, I know it's not much, but.
It's not much.
Okay, and then,
$2.50.
okay, and then
It's actually $80. I calculated it.
it's $80?
It's $80.
$80.
Put that toward our salary. Anyway, let's see, and then the other thing I was gonna ask, okay, are you proposing any raises for our employees at all?
That was the 3%, it's a 2% cost of living
I'm
and
sorry, I
1%.
missed that.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
a 2% cost of living, 1% merit.
That is awesome. I'm sorry I missed it.
And that keeps us even at 1.15% lower than last year's budget.
That is incredible. Great work. Great work. Alrighty, that's all I have for now.
Alex?
Thank you. By the way, it's on page 18. Thank you, Marion. It was a wonderful presentation. I appreciate it. It was a great deal shorter than our previous sessions and yet still addressed everything we needed. I did have several questions. One, several of us have asked the question about the tax rate. And so, yes, I think we are being forced to because that's the roll rate, and I don't think any of us want to put something about $80 or even a couple $1,000s in front of the citizens. I don't think that's the right thing to do. Had we lowered our tax rate last year, then our collected amount this year would have been a good deal lower. We probably still would have been forced to lower it
You would
again.
have lowered it even
So
more.
we're
Every time you
probably
lower
now,
it, you continue to have to
Right.
lower it.
right, so we're in that stage now that each year, because of the legislation from a couple of years ago, that
Now-
we're gonna get,
What we could have done, and we might consider next year if they allow us to. So because of the COVID, what you could have done is we could have done a resolution to say we were gonna go with the de minimis rate, which is another rate above your voter. So you could do that, and they were allowing that because of the COVID, and go closer to the 8%. Your rollback, because the rollback is now 3.5%. We decided because of what, the mayor and I really talked about that, and we just felt that, we weren't in that position as a city. We just weren't in that position needing that extra and putting that pressure on the citizens at this
and
time.
I agree completely. I don't have a problem with that at all. I
Yeah.
think that's fine. I just know that that's why I brought it up last year, was
Yeah.
that we didn't want to push ourselves down, and knowing we were going to have to. And the difference between that is actually almost exactly 1%, as far as what that does to our revenue. I know it's not a percent in the numerical, but
Mhm.
it's 1% of the number. I think it's 0.9.
Yeah.
The second question, and I was glad to see the increase in the police cars, because I've heard rumor that we're running short on police cars.
We're not running short on police cars.
So that
But we're looking at our goal, we did a replacement thing, we're looking at trying to replace 2 a year, but eventually, if we can get these lease payments paid off, and we're looking at other opportunities, I'm working really close with the police department, and looking at other opportunities, that eventually, if we pay cash for them and not have these lease payments, we have more opportunities. I mean, you think about it, we have $157,000 in lease. A car cost, everything together, 30-something thousand, 60,000. If we're just paying that, we can buy that plus a truck or two cash, and each year. So that is our goal, is to get to that point. Now, of course, some of that lease payment is the ambulance and the fire truck. That is a big portion of it. But we could afford to pay that and the vehicles, and that's something that we're looking at. We're looking at other grant opportunities that are there, so we might be able to look at some grants that are available to actually purchase some police cars. So that, at least one time, it's not an every year thing, but at least one time to get us 2 of them, to get us a relief to pay off some of these lease payments.
So I was glad to see that on there, because I think that's important that
Very
we
important.
make sure that we have that capacity.
Yes.
The PEG fund, I was curious about it, and this is just more of a math question, if you could go back to the prior.
Yeah.
The rest of the numbers seem to make sense. For example, if you look at core technology, if you add roughly 16 to 10, you subtract 14.5, you get 11. I'm still struggling with the math, how you end up
You're
starting
right,
with
that doesn't look
71
right.
plus
Let me
30
let me
minus
relook at that.
150 doesn't leave 95.
It doesn't. I believe our projected balance is incorrect.
saw
You're
that
right.
too.
Let me relook at that.
Yeah, that would be like
Let me look at that.
minus 48 or something. So
Yeah,
not
so
positive.
there's-
I just was curious to throw that up there because
Yes.
it doesn't make sense to me. And then I did have a question, 2 more, if I
Okay.
may. The pay raise, page 18, you don't need to bring it up necessarily, where you indicated 2% cost of living plus 1% merit. So is this to imply that every employee will get 2%?
Every
And then at
employee,
the discretion of the department head, that 1% will be spread out?
yes, it'll be
Okay.
spread out because if not everybody, so someone might get a little bit more, some. it
That
just
was
depends
that
on
was the so but everybody will get the 2.
Yes,
And then the 1 is at the discretion based on merit according to the department
That
head
is
spreading
correct.
it. That's what I wanted to clarify.
Mhm.
And we are still sticking with the step and grade system, so we're gonna have to, it won't be exactly 2 probably.
Right,
but
some will be a
it'll
little
to the
less, some will be a
nearest
little
step.
bit more.
We do the 3 and then a round up or down to the nearest quarter on the step.
Mhm.
And then the final question I had was, I saw the health insurance premiums will be increasing by the 19%. What does that mean to the city in the shape of dollars?
70,000.
Okay. I just was curious what that actual dollar number was. Thank you. Those are my questions. Appreciate it.
And that's 70,000 if every employee. Not every employee utilizes it. Some of them sign out because they're spouses, but we can't determine that. So we always budget 100%, because we do have some employees that use either our veterans, so they already get it, or they use their spouse, so they do opt out of our health insurance. So, but in the budget, we do have to budget 100%, because what if they leave and we get somebody that uses our health insurance?
And
So we budget at the full
this
100%.
then includes the projected new employees as well?
Correct.
Great. Thank you.
That it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Alan.
And I too want to say thank you to you, Marion, and
Thank you.
Kevin, to you. I could tell a lot of work went into this, and the presentation was clear and concise.
Good, thank you.
Thank you all very much. And I appreciate the education on the new terms, new property tax terms, voter approval tax rate. That was new to me, and I appreciate that explanation, as well as the no new revenue rate. So I thank you. All the questions that I had have already been asked. Or noted. So that's what happens when you sit on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I have there.
Next time we'll start with you.
I could have asked one. Tell me which one to leave.
Okay, any follow-up, Cynthia? Anything?
No, I did want to ask about the debt service. You have this on page 25 in this, I should be looking at it. So, is anything being paid off this year, or everything is still?
It's still.
Yeah. And I remember last year they gave us a timeline of when everything.
There is a timeline.
There is.
It is on page, let me let you know.
Are you talking about
It's on tab D, summary of outstanding debt obligations.
You talking about the certificates of obligation?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Okay,
the,
Oh, here they are.
yeah, page starts on page 28.
Oh, here they are.
Mhm.
Okay. 2027?
And the other one is 35, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I see. And what about the judgment?
It will be next year.
Next year?
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was
No, it's
this
just-
year.
it's just-
Well, I'm sorry, this year,
This
next,
year. Yeah,
yeah,
this-
this fiscal year.
This October.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
yes,
Okay.
this fiscal year, I'm sorry.
All right, okay, good. That's all.
That's out of the way.
Yes, thank you.
I like how you worded that.
Paul, anything else?
No, sir.
Anything else from any
Wait, I had one question, please.
What? Go for it.
Okay, are we, I think we already budgeted for this, but are we planning on still doing the covered parking for the police cars?
Yeah.
The carport, yes, we actually just we finished our bid process, and we're actually going forward with that. We're also adding a fence. We're finishing that bid, and that will hopefully be done in the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Both of those were in this year's budget, and they should be completed by the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, and I won't be losing computers
Are
on
you,
there.
what was that again?
The heat just takes a toll on those MBTs.
Oh,
They really
it's
are.
unbelievable. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially, oh my God, over 100 degrees every
Yeah.
day this week.
It's-
Are you still going with a metal roof with that?
On the carport?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Marion. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 10, discussion of an action on setting public hearings on the proposed fiscal year-end 2021 municipal budget and the proposed fiscal year-end 2021 Economic Development Corporation budget to be set on Thursday, August 27th, 2020, and Thursday, September 10th, 2020, at 7 p.m. or during the council meeting on those evenings. So, discussion and action. We can have a motion in a second to set these dates.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion, discuss, take action on 10.
The motion needs to actually say those exact, I move to.
I need to read the whole thing? Okay. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I just read it. I just read it.
You did? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. I would have known that, I wouldn't have made the Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we discuss and take action on setting public hearings on the proposed FYE 2021 municipal budget and the proposed FYE 2021 Economic Development Corporation budget on Thursday, August 27th, 2020, and Thursday, September 10th, 2020, at 7 p.m. in the City Hall Council Chamber.
7 p.m. or thereabouts.
Oh, okay, right there.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Blue, so we have a motion from Byes, a second from Blue. Any discussion?
I'd like to just ask one question.
Shoot.
Sorry. Why do we, is this a legislative deal? Is this a state law that we have to keep putting this in the newspaper?
Yes.
And it's expensive, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I had.
Alex?
No comments, thank you.
Alan?
I have nothing.
Cynthia?
Oh, no.
Paul? Okay, no discussion, then this, an aye vote will be to approve setting the public hearings for the dates stated in the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item number 11 is discussion of an action on setting a public hearing.
We also have to take an action of when you're gonna place it, to actually adopt.
I thought we were gonna do that at 11.
Not for the budget?
Hmm?
We didn't do number 9. I said
No,
that was
10, yeah, but 10 has
It's
2
10.
parts. You have to actually, put the proposed budget, on the actual agenda for adoption.
Say again?
You have to actually put the item on the agenda. You have to announce when you're gonna put the item on the agenda for adoption. For the budget.
It doesn't say that here though.
Is this off of that,
It's number 9.
yeah, this is the one you gave me?
Yes, for number 10.
So this second motion will be to just put it on the agenda?
Yes.
I would figure we just do that. You need a motion for that? Okay, Marion says we need this motion. I have it here. It needs to be stated pretty much like it is. It's just the second bullet point, right, Marion?
Yes, sir.
Because we just did the first one. Bert, you want to do this one too? That one right there. Just read that.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that, I move that an action item be placed on the agenda for September 24th, 2020 to adopt the proposed FY 2021 annual budget. Thanks.
Did you get that? You want to second that? Okay.
And then, sure.
So we have a motion on this from Byes and a second from Blue. This is all to simplify the process. Thank you to the legislature and Truth in Taxation
That's the
laws. So we have the motion to have an action item placed on the September 24th agenda to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021 annual budget. Any discussion? Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Then on number 11 reads that we need to have public hearings, but we received an email from TML that says that if we are going to be planning to adopt a property tax rate that is the lower of the new revenue rate, formerly called the effective rate, or the voter approval rate, we do not need to have public hearings. However, you guys, as always, need to determine what that rate's going to be. And as you saw, I believe it was in the presentation, we're recommending the rate of 34.6524 cents per $100 in valuation, which is 0.000001 less than the voter approval tax rate. So if you all are in agreement with that, you can, as always, set that tax rate tonight, or just say you're not going to exceed that, and then you have the option of doing anything that tax rate or less on the 24th. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
Okay. Does anyone want to make this motion?
I'd like to.
Okay.
I'd like to,
Here,
You have to read those.
It's these two down here. I've got number one and number two. So we'll take care of number one first.
I move to set the proposed 2020 tax rate at .346524 per $100 valuation, composed of the M&O rate of .242646 and the INS rate at .073878.
Thank you. That's a motion by Councilmember Massey. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. As long as I don't have to repeat it.
Right. And for those that aren't familiar with M&O, that's maintenance and operations. That's the money that we use to take care of our day-to-day operation of the city, and the INS is interest in sinking to take care of our debt service. Okay, any discussion necessary on this? None heard. We'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay, Cynthia, you're up on the second.
Okay, I move the city set an action item on the September 24th, 2020 agenda to adopt the 2020 tax rate.
Okay. Any discussion? Oh, we'll have a second.
I'll second
Watching the clock. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to set an action item on this September 24th agenda to adopt the 2020 tax rate. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. And with the motion on the first bullet point, that sets the potential tax rate at less than the voter approved rate, so we do not have to schedule the two public hearings that are in here. So that takes care of item 11, right? And if that takes us to the end of our agenda, I think Selena had a pot going to finish before 8, so Selena, you missed it by a few minutes.
Thanks, Bert.
I'm a slow reader, okay?
It's all
Barely
Bert-
passed it in
It's
school.
all Bert's fault. But if there are no objections, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. No objections, none heard. We're adjourned at 8:02.